Hi everyone, welcome to week 2 of your technical math course. This week we are going to be covering the next two chapters, which are chapter 3 on measurements and chapter 4, which is about sine numbers and the powers of 10. I just wanted to point out a few things. This set of slides has about 26 slides in it, but there's a lot of material in your textbook too. And I just wanted to make sure to remind you that the material that is at the end of each section, those review problems, those are strictly for you for practice. You're not turning any of those things in. The only things that you're turning in each week are the practice tests for that particular chapter. So you're just going to do those and turn those in. And as you're working on those other things though, to get ready for that practice test, make sure you're going to the back of the book. The answers for those questions for the ends of at the end of each section is in the back of the book, and that is an excellent way for you to check your work, to see how you're doing, to determine what you may or may not have questions on. If you're unsure about something, it's a great place to go to kind of gauge how you're doing on the material. So I just wanted to make sure to point that out to you in case for some reason you have not discovered that already. So the first chapter we're covering this week is chapter 3, and it's all about measurement. And this is just a little blurb that I found about the history of the metric system. The metric system is what we're going to focus on at the beginning of this chapter. And the main reason for the metric system's use is because it's the system that is used in science. So it's kind of the universal language of science. And because of that, we were going to use it a lot in any of the medical fields. That's what you're going to see most often is the metric system. Now, I have a couple different things in here I want to point out. This is an example of the unit of length in the metric system, the meter, which is the basic unit of length. Kind of shows you a comparison of how it compares to yards. And then it kind of goes through the different conversions. A kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters and so on. I also have a graphic that shows you how they're all related horizontally. So in other words, if you want to go from meter to millimeter, you're going to multiply by 0.001. If you want to go the other direction, meter to kilometer, you're going to multiply by 1,000. So this is just kind of a visual to kind of help you with those conversions. The other visual on this page kind of gives you an idea of how an inch compares to centimeters. So that's another thing I wanted to point out on this slide. And then going forward, we have just some other comparisons so that you can kind of get a feel for what these particular measurements are like. If you think about a millimeter being about the thickness of 5 sheets of paper, you can understand how very, very small it is. So just trying to give you some ideas so that you kind of have that in the back of your mind. Now, part of what you're going to be learning in this chapter is how to convert units. This is an example of how to convert metric units of length using conversion factors. So this actually shows you if we want to change 10.4 kilometers into meters, the very first thing that we do is put that 10.4 kilometers over 1, and then we're going to multiply by a conversion factor. What goes on top is the unit you're converting to, and on the bottom is what you're converting from. So because 1,000 meters is equal to 1 kilometer, we call that a conversion factor. And then we're just going to do the math. Multiply everything on top, multiply everything on bottom, and you're going to get 10,400 meters. So that's one way to convert units in the metric system. The other way is to use what we call the prefix line. And basically what that means is we decide whether or not we need to go forward or backward on the line. So let's go back to this example, 10.4 kilometers, and we're going to meters. So according to this, we're going to begin at the point corresponding to the original unit you're given, in this case, kilometers. Then you're going to count the number of positions that you need to move to get to the new units of measurement. So you have to go 1, 2, 3 units. So we're going to move the decimal point 3 units to the right because we counted to the right. And then we're going to change the unit to the new unit of measure. So if you look at this one, back where we were, 10.4, moving that decimal 3 units to the right, remember it was here where the comma is. So 1, 2, 3. So it works the same way with using the prefix line as it does with the conversions. So I have a couple other examples in here of that. I also have some examples of the other units within the metric system. The units for mass are gram. The units of capacity is liter. And it all works the same way as far as conversions. And then you're also going to find in this chapter that there's a lot of other types of units of measure they're going to talk about. I've included a few in the slides, looking at our customary units, which is what we use here in the U.S. Things like feet, yards, miles when we talk about length, time, years, days, weeks. Obviously, you're all familiar with those. Capacity, so gallons, quarts, pints. Weight, pounds and ounces. And so I also go through and show you how to do some conversions using that conversion factor, because keep in mind, in the customary system, we don't have that easy way of doing it by tens. So I just kind of go through again how to use the conversion factors. And then you're also going to see how to do the conversions when we're going from metric to customary. Same idea. We're going to use those conversion factors. I've got a little bit in here for you about temperature. The conversion factors for temperature, the formulas I should say. And then the rest of chapter 3 is all about actually reading some of the different tools and things like that. Some of them you may be familiar with, some of them like a micrometer you may never have seen before. But there's a lot of interesting tools that they show you in chapter 3. Chapter 4 goes on and starts talking about signed numbers, so the difference between a positive versus negative, and then how do we do operations with those? How do we add numbers if they have the same sign? We just add the number parts and we keep the sign that is with them. So in this case, -2 and -4 is going to be -6 because we're just adding the number parts and then keeping the sign. What if they have different signs? Well, we subtract the number parts. 7 minus 2 is 5, and we keep the sign of the one with the largest absolute value. So in this case, 7. And then I also included the rules for multiplying and dividing signed numbers, as well as order of operations, which are very important and will be going forward. So as you're going through this week's material, if you have any problems or questions over my notes on these slides or on the textbook itself, please make sure that you're reaching out to me, and have a great week.